Okay, let's kneel. Dear Father in heaven, we are so thankful for this morning or this afternoon, depending where we are. And we just ask, Lord, that you can be with us as we open your word together, as we try to understand the time that we are in, and that you can bring a conviction upon us and a power to be your witnesses on this earth. May your Holy Spirit be our teacher here as we share together for this brief hour. And we pray and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, we dealt last time in some ways with June 27th. I don't like the way that line looks here. We dealt a little bit with it in dealing with June 22nd. So I'm just gonna, here we had June 22nd. And this is when this movement had all the international attention drawn to this prediction of July 18th. And June 27th was the Sabbath. That's 21 days before July 18th. Now we have some more dates in here. As we know, we have not June, but July 4th. And this is the end of 100 days of prayer that began on March 27th.
100 days is 144,000 minutes.
Right. So, yeah, so this is 100 days. Now, and this is not cardinal days, but ordinal days. So the actual amount of time is 144,000 minutes. So, as Stephen pointed out. Now, this date is coming up, and then we have another date that's coming up. And this date is July 14th, or July 10th. There we go. So we have July 10th coming up before July 18th. We have July 4th here. So these are the dates. This line that we're in. And of course, we have 21 days here. And if you count from June 27th to July 4th, this is a period of 7 days. And July 4th to July 10th is a period of 6 days. And then this is a period of 8 days, just if we count them in the cardinal fashion. We could call this a period of 7 days if we wanted to. There's different ways in which we could count this. We could count this as 7 days. There's different ways, but this is just the normal way we count these days. I'm not sure of the significance of each of these, but obviously in these 21-day period, 7 plus 6 plus 8 is 21. Now, I want to look at these dates that are coming for several reasons. One is we believe that there's going to be an increase of light from June 27th to July 18th. And this increase of light is obviously connected with the understanding of July 18th. Now we do have another period of time over here, which is 13 days. And these 13 days go to July 31st. This is, of course, the 10th day of the 5th month. This is the 26th day of the 4th month. And we can label each of these if we wanted to, the significance of this date is what we're going to look at today. Now, obviously, July 10th is 8 days before, so it'd be the 18th day of the 4th month on the biblical calendar. But as a symbol, it is the 10th day of the 7th month. So it's an important symbol. But most of us don't realize how we came to July 10th. It was briefly explained. I did explain it in Arkansas on November 9th. It was explained in the superintendent remarks and then in a meeting in the afternoon. Maybe it was the meeting in the afternoon, I believe, that I did the rest of it. So July 10th isn't really well understood, but it's an important date. Being 8 days before July 18th, it has a symbol of dealing with the priests and the Levites from 2 Chronicles chapter 29, where they cleanse the temple for 8 days. And so we want to look at this date here, and it's a little complicated. There's a lot involved in it. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. So here, I'm just going to put this up here to get it out of the way. So we'll call this the 10th day of the 7th month as a symbol.
Just a wee comment. I noticed that the Crescent Hub Muslim Social Conference Initiative sent a letter to Jeff on the 27th of June.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, thanks for that information.
Yeah, it was titled Spreading Hate in the Name of Prophecies. And then it sort of just condenses and stuff. And
okay, where do we get a copy of that?
Let me see if I can send you a copy by email.
Okay.
It was on, I noticed it on the FFA chat group.
Okay.
Where I downloaded the PDF, and it only come on the chat room yesterday, I think. And I was watching your 18th of July presentation, and you mentioned the 27th of June, and that's what clicked me on that date. Okay. And that letter that's been sent to Future for America. But I'll see if I can send it to you.
Okay, well, thanks. That'd be good, Tom. Okay. So in trying to do this, I don't know if I can do it in the time allotted, but I'm going to do as much as I can. Now, this goes back to this period here, which we've dealt with a lot. And this is from July 27th, 1449, which we're using a Gregorian date here, to July 27th, 1840. This is a period of 391 years. And 391 years is 142,810 days. Now, that doesn't mean a lot to people. In trying to understand this period, one thing you can see is that this is the 26th day of the 4th month, and so is this. The thing that's not well known, and what we're going to be dealing with, is a few different calendars here and how they all connect. So I'm just going to bring my image up here so I can get all the numbers right. Now, this period of time is a special period of time, astronomically speaking. That is, it's not something that's arbitrary in any way. Now, the Islamic date here, this is what I have to look up, I couldn't remember. This is the 27th day of the 5th month. Well, I'll do it this way. I'll write the Islamic dates this way. 25, 8, 853 AH. It's in the year of Hijrah. And this date here is, or I don't know why I put 25, 27, 8, 27, 5. I don't know how I wrote that. 27, 5. And this is 1256 in the year of the Hijrah. Now, the thing about this is we see that we have two different calendars here that are aligning, and also this calendar is aligning. There's 3 different calendars that have been aligned. And if we looked at this period here, we say this is 391 years. And if I looked at the biblical calendar, this would also be 391 years. But if I look at the Islamic calendar, and I take 1256 minus 853, I'll find that I get 403 years. And this seems kind of odd if you don't understand how the Islamic calendar works. So our calendar has 12 months. So 1 year equals 12 months of 30.44 days that are 30.44 days long. So that's how many days are in each of these months. Now, the biblical year is a little bit different. Their year has 12 or 13 months, and the average month is 29.53 days. So that's the average. But of course, some of those months, some of these years are going to have 13 months, and some are going to have 12. Now, the Islamic calendar, 1 year is always 12 months of 29.53 days. So it's a lunar calendar, and it doesn't have this extra month added. Now, the Jews add the extra month every 2nd or 3rd year. So you could see, obviously, in 2 or 3 years, they're going to be 1 month shorter. Over a long period of time, the Islamic calendar is going to cover a greater number of years than ours. Now, that can be confusing because you're not comparing years that are equal. You're comparing, one is a year. Another way of looking at this is our year. So we'll just call this the Julian Gregorian, roughly, because they're not exactly the same. 1 year equals 365 and a quarter. Well, that'd be really, if you go to the Gregorian, it's 0.242, but we'll just roughly say that that's what it is. And when it comes to the biblical year, 1 year is 365.242. It's actually even more precise than that. So it's much more like the Gregorian year, the solar year. You know, maybe what I could put is I could put this is the Julian year and this is the Gregorian biblical year.
You have it 260. You have it 265.
Yeah. Okay. 365. And then when it comes to the Islamic year, 1 year, because it's a type of lunar year, each year is 354.37 days long. So these years are all different lengths. And I don't want to really confuse people. I know this can sort of bog people down a little bit. But the main point is you can see that Islamic years are much shorter, and roughly by about 11 days. So that means every time you have Ramadan, every year, it's going to be about 11 days earlier than it was the year before. So Ramadan will go through, that's their, of course, their big festival, will go through that cycle coming around to the same time every 32 years and 7 months. So they have a cycle that's 32 years and 7 months. Of course, it's 32 years and 7 months on our calendar. On the Islamic calendar, it's 33 years and 7 months. That means in this period of time, they will have cycled through that entire year where they have gone one more year than us. Now, it's of course the same number of days. It's not like their year is has, it's not some kind of time war. Both of these equal 11,900 days, and I could put 0.833. Really, there's other ways or simpler ways of writing this down, but this is how you do it if you do it in a decimal system. This is how you do it if you just do years and months. But you can see it's not exact to the day. This actually has, if I wanted to put it a different way, I put 20 hours. So it's not quite 11,901. It's about 4 hours short of that. But we usually just use this number here, 11,900, to represent the number of days. Now, in this period of time here, we know that this is 391 years. Now, another way to represent this period of time, in 32 years and 7 months, we actually have 391 months. So one of the things that you can see that's interesting is this cycle of years between these two produces 391 months. So if you take this period of time, 11,900 days, that's going to equal 391 months. And you can see that this is a period of 391 years. And since there's 12 months in a year, we can say that 391 years is divided into 12 periods. These are supposed to be equal. And each of these periods is going to be 391 months. So there's 12 periods of 391 months from July 27th, 1449 to July 27th, 1840. And this is rather remarkable. One is we have this symbolism of the number 12. And we know 12 times 12 is 144. And 12,000 times 12,000 is 144,000. So there's symbolism here in this number 12. And of course, the number of months, which is in the Islamic calendar. Now, in this period of time, since their months are shorter than ours, they cover 403 months. And you saw that this is a period for them of 403 years. So from here to here is 403 years. And so it's obvious that it should be the same. So since it's 391 years and we have 12 months in a year, it's going to be 391 months are going to be 12 groups of those. And it's the same thing with theirs. Since there's 403 months in this cycle, 12 of those cycles will be 403 years. So there's this difference of time between theirs and ours. And of course, the difference of time, since there's 1 year in each of these cycles, there's 12 years difference. So 403 minus 12 equals 391. So they have 12 more years every 391 years than we do. Now, if we were to take this number and we were multiply it by 12, we would actually get 142,800. This 10 days is these 20 hours divided by 12. So if you take 20 hours and you divide it by 12, you have 240 hours, which gives you these 10 days. So this period of time here is the cycle of the ecliptic. That is, if you looked at the eclipses of the moon and you started here on July 27th and you mapped them all, and after 391 years of mapping them all, and you got to July 27th, 1840, you would actually repeat those same eclipses of the moon for the next 391 years. There's other things that would repeat as well, of course. Now, the difference from here to here, how precise it is it's actually just a number of minutes different. That is, when we say it's 142,810 days, it's 142,810 days within several minutes of time. So it's not hours difference, it's very precise. So it's a very precise cycle. Now, this can seem a little bit esoteric. Not everybody's going to necessarily understand this. But there's something that we do with this, that we understand about this, that I think is important. So one is, of course, we see that the prophecy in Revelation chapter 9, where it talks about an hour, a day, and a month, and a year, if you take the hour out, and you just take a month, a day, and a year, and you put them into prophetic time, they equal 391 years. And it's just remarkable that the Islam, because it's talking about Islam, uses a lunar calendar. And this is all about the cycles of the moon. This is a cycle that relates to the moon, a sun-moon relationship. And so we have 3 different calendars that are going to align, and they're all different types of calendars. But they're going to line up on July 27th, 1449, and again on July 27th, 1840. And the chances of that happening are very slim, that you're going to have this time prophecy that has this element in it that's so precise. So it's one of the things that shows that God is behind this prediction. Now, there's another point, and I probably shouldn't have erased that, but I did. But anyway, you'll just remember it. One of the other things about this this number here that I noticed is that we have 12 times 12, or 12 times 11,900. But this is only 100 short of 12,000, right? So it's just 100. So if you added 100, you would get 12,000 days. And if I was going to multiply 12,000 by 12, I would get 144,000. But this isn't 144,000. It's short. It's short a little bit. But I had noticed that the Mayan calendar, and we studied this, of course, because we know on December 21st, 2012, that this is what happened with the Mayan calendar, and that each one of these 13s, each one of this 13, each one represents 144,000 days. So what I wanted to see, and this should be obvious as we start to look at it, but I'll just keep erasing that. I'm going to erase this. And so what I wanted to see is where 144,000 days would end up if I went from here to here. So instead of going to July 27th with the 142,810 days, or 391 years, I wanted to see how far 144,000 days goes. I just wanted to see what date I would end up with. Now, if I take 144,000 and I subtract 142,810, you'll see that I get this number. me see if I'm doing this backwards. I'll just do the math here. So we got, this is going to be 0. This is going to be 10 minus 1, which is going to be 9. And this is going to be, again, 10 minus 8, which is, what am I doing now? Yeah, that's going to be 9 minus 8, because I'm going to take 1 off of there. And then I'm going to have 1 taken off of there. I'm going to subtract 3. So I get 11,090 days. Now notice this number here, 11,090, is 1/10 of this 11,900. Okay, so, and that's really remarkable that when we think about it, we have this symbol. Each one of these is 11,900 days. But if I take this whole period here and I subtract this period from 144,000, I get 1/10 of one of these periods. So that means this number here is 1/10 of 1/12 of this entire period. So if I take 391 years and I divide it by 12, and then I divide it by 10, I will get 1,190 days. So this to me is a remarkable coincidence. But to understand the significance of this, because we're dealing with July 10th, we're going to understand how I came to July 10th, why I thought it was significant. This is based on the Mayan calendar. And of course, the Mayan calendar is an American calendar. Somebody wrote me an email and complained that it was a pagan calendar. Why am I using a pagan calendar in Bible prophecy? Some kind of evil. But yet we use the Julian calendar, which is a pagan Roman calendar, and we use the Gregorian calendar, which is a papal Roman calendar. And we use them in Bible prophecy and always have as Seventh-day Adventists. So it doesn't seem strange to apply then this pagan American calendar, especially when we're dealing with a prediction regarding America. We also use the biblical calendar, but the biblical calendar is not our primary calendar. We didn't come to the 2,300 days by using the biblical calendar alone. We applied it later on, but we initially used the Julian and Gregorian calendars. And of course, we know with the August 11th, 1840 prediction, that Josiah Litch started with the Julian calendar, which is a pagan Roman calendar, and ended with the Gregorian calendar, that's a papal Roman calendar. And he didn't use the biblical calendar at all. Of course, he would have arrived at the same date if he had. So to me, this is endorsing, God is endorsing the use of calendars in making predictions regarding definite time. So to use this Mayan calendar cycle, obviously this number is a biblical number, 144,000. So, a person could even just argue, I'm just using the number 144,000 to derive this. But I still think that it's in the Mayan calendar, is in God's providence. So if we count from July 27th, 1840, and we count the number of days, we come to October 30th, 1843. Now, I'm just going to put the Mayan date over here. So I'm going to erase all this stuff. Erase this. And the Mayan date here is 11/11. I should have this memorized, 871. So it's the numbers, the last three numbers are the numbers from July 18th with the 7 in the middle instead of on either side. And then these two numbers here, 11 and 11. Now, the date that we're going to go to is October 30th, 1843. And that date is 12/11/871. So it's, as you can see, one back tune has passed, That's 144,000 days. So this number has moved from 11 to 12. And so the period of time here is 1,190 days. It's 1/10 of this entire period. Now, this is roughly 3.5 years. As you can see, it's a little bit less because you're going from 1840 to 1843, July, August, September, October. So it's about 3 years and 3 months, 3 1/3 years, the period of time of 1,190 days. Now, initially when I looked at this, I wasn't sure where it was going to go, and I wasn't sure of the significance of this period of time. But I wanted to go further because I knew I had this date over here, July 18th, 2020. And I wondered about the relationship between this period here of 144,000 days and July 18th. Was there any relationship? Now, I hope people are following this. I always worry that nobody knows what I'm talking about, even though some of you have seen it before. Now, just to count the number of days from October 30th, 1843 to July 18th, 2020 is 64,500. And so if I want to go here, I'm going to go from here to here. This is 64,545 days from July 18th here. Now, it's a nice looking number, but what does it mean? And
Okay, Theodore.
yeah.
Okay, you're saying that it's 64,545 days from July 27th, 1449?
Oh, pardon me. I'm doing this wrong. Yes, it should be from this July. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. This would make more sense. 65,454 days from July 27th. And actually, it shouldn't even be from there. It should be from October 30th. So yeah, I'm 64,545 days.
Thank you for clarifying.
That's much better.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so that's the number of days from October 30th to July 18th, 2020. And so trying to understand what that means, it's as I said, it's a nice looking number. It has some structure to it, the 4545, that's a symbol. Now, what I wanted to do then is I wanted to apply the same principle that we used to come to July 18th using this, this structure here. And we remember we went to July 27th, 1840, and we used half of a year instead of a half of a month. Instead of 15 days, we used a half of a year, 180 days. And then we used it in a day for a year fashion. Now, it's not totally how we came to it. There's more to it. But that's one of the ways in which we connected July 18, 2020 to here. We know also, of course, it's also the 26th day of the 4th month. So this period being here 180 years is significant in how we came to that. But it's also 0.5. So this is a 391.5, and 391.5 comes from the years of the kings of Judah, and it also comes from 391.5 days from October 13th at noon to midnight commencing November 9th, 2019. So so we have this idea of a 0.5. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at this and try to think, how would I apply this if I was going to try to predict this event without using this? Just taking 391 years and taking a 0.5. And if I take 5 as a symbol, it doesn't necessarily mean I would take half of this period, but I would take 5 of these. So the way that I did the math may seem a little bit odd. I'm just going to write out the formula I used. So I took 142,810 and I divided it by 12, right? So that was the first thing that I would do. And I multiplied it by 5. Right, so that means I took, dividing it by 12 gave me basically one of these, and then I took 5 of these. And so that's the number of days that I would need. And then I'm going to add 142,810 divided by 10, divided by 12, divided by 5. So I'm going to take this same thing and I'm going to add it to 142,810 divided by 12 divided by 10 multiplied by 5. And I'm going to add these two together. So this is going to be 1/10 of this number. Now, the main point is that the number of days that I came to was 65,454. So that is, if I was going to count the number of days that I wanted to have, this is going to equal 65,454 days. And if I was going to count from July 27th, this number of days, I'm going to come to a specific date. And that date is in this line. It's going to be earlier here. So I'm going to have to draw it here. But this period of time from here to here is October 10th, 2019. So that's 65,454 days. Now you can see, of course, it's similar to this number. It's an inversion of this number. This last part is inverted. But this number here is starting on October 30th, 1843. I'm starting on July 27th and counting this 0.5 of the sorts, this symbolized by 5. And I'm counting here, and I come to October 10th, 2019. So I'm obviously short of the mark. And then I tried the same formula. What I did is, instead of putting 142,810, I replaced this with 144,000. So now I'm going to use this symbol, 144,000. And I'm going to do the same formula. Now when I do that, I come to a different number. So I come to the number, let's make sure I get this right. Yeah, 66,000. Now, if I take 66,000 and I subtract 65,454, I get another number, which is 5,406. Or not 5,000, 546. Used to say, so I'm just going to subtract. And that's the number of days difference between these two. Now the date that I arrive at here is April 9th, 2021. Now there's significance in the number April 9th, because if you look at April 9th on the Julian calendar, it would be March 27th. So it's March 27th, 2021, which is a symbol of 273. And I don't think you can see that over there, so I'm just going to move that. There we go. So that's a symbol of 273. So you can see I wrote April 9th past July 18th, 2021. Now, this number 546 is an interesting number, because this number, if it's divided by 2, So I'm just going to do it over here. 546 divided by 2 equals 273. So the difference between trying to find how I can apply this 0.5, this formula here, where I'm taking 0.5 and I'm using it as a symbol. I'm taking this whole period, and then I'm taking 1/12 of that period, 1/10 of that period, because this is like a 1/10. I'm going to take a 1/10 of that period, and I'm going to take 1/10 of 1/12, multiply it by 5, and add it to 1/12. So I'm taking the whole period and 1/12 of it, multiplying it by 5, and then I'm taking the whole period, 1/12 of it, divided by 10, and multiplying it by 5. And I'm doing it with two different numbers, with this number, 142,810, and this number, 144,000. And the difference between those formulas is double 273. Now what that means is I have this date, October 10th. Now the date October 10th was already one of my predictions, so I'm leaving that out. I predicted October 10th back in May of 2019. So I predicted that as a date regarding increase of light in regard to the message to the Levites. So that's just a simple way of saying it. I predicted that date using the dark day. So there is a video on the dark day where I explain that. And the thing that's interesting is the day that I figured this out regarding October 10th. Let me just see. Oh, pardon me. This is wrong. This isn't October 10th. This is wrong. This is October 11th. That's how it works. So on October 10th, I actually figured this out. And October 10th was the date that I had predicted. So on October 10th, I figured out this prophecy that pointed to October 11th, 2019, as a time for an increase of light. So on October 10th, I had an increase of light, and that increase of light was this. And the center of this date, and this date, April 9th, and I'd already had April 9th, 2021. I'd understood this date based upon the fact that it was March 27th. And I had it in other ways. But if I go in between here, this period of 546 days, the center of it is July 10th. That means from October 11th to July 10th, 2020 is 273 days. And then from July 10th, 2020 to April 9th, 2021 is also 273 days. So you're going to have 273 days here and there. And that's where July 10th comes from. Now, I'm sure that people, hopefully you have, if you don't understand it at all, you might not know what question to ask. But does anybody not understand this? I mean, I don't say all the details, but you understand the basic concept. Everybody pretty much understand that. This is somebody who doesn't understand what I did or has questions about what I did. Because there are good questions that a person could ask about this. But if you don't understand it, it's hard to know what those good questions are.
No, it's fairly clear.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Dwight. Hopefully you speak for everyone. So
yeah, I'm sort of following, yeah.
You're following? Okay, good. So we have this date, July 10th. Now the question is, what does it mean? Now, if I looked at this in one way, I could say this didn't work out. That is, I tried another system to come to July 18th, and that system didn't work out. Now, of course, one of the things you see is this number here. If I had, and I actually made a mistake when I originally did it, I get a little bit dyslexic about numbers sometimes, which actually always helps me. But I decided to count from October 30th, 1843, 144,000 days. And instead of taking this number, I took this number and I came to July 18th. So I had inverted the 54s into 45s. And at first I thought, oh, that actually comes out perfectly. But the fact that it's an inversion is still meaningful. And in some ways, it's even more meaningful that I did that. Because here, this number was produced by using not the Mayan date, but this one. So I've mixed up the 144,000 in this and made a mistake and come to the same, to July 18th. But the chances that that could occur are very unlikely. So I also have this October 30th, 1843 date, which is about a year short of October 22nd, 1844. So it's not obviously, it's less than a year short, but I thought that was interesting. It's basically a year minus 9 days because there's a leap year in 1843. I think I did the math right there. And yet we have this near miss, this July 10th. Now, of course, the significance of July 10th, it's the 10th day. So if we look up here, the 10th day of the 7th month, and it's 8 days before July 18th. And in constructing all of this, I was operating on October 10th, a day in which I believed I would have an increase of light regarding the message to the Levites. So we think about it that way. So I knew that October 10th was going to be about giving the message to Seventh-day Adventists. When I got to October 10th, I wasn't actually thinking about October 10th at all. When I did this, I didn't really recognize until after I had done this that it was October 10th. And so then I said, well, maybe that's this light. And the reason why is because I had this October 11th date, and I started thinking, okay, that looks really familiar. This was this October 10th date that I had done back in May, and I was here in October. And then, so I had this date, and I'm just seeing how much time I have, not too much time. And that's, to me, the significance is that there's meaning in this based upon my personal experience in understanding this, but somebody else looking at it wouldn't necessarily understand that. So they may not know about the prophecy that I had for October 10th, and then when I get to October 10th, I get this prophecy here that has October 11th in it the next day. And this October 11th connects me these 273s to April 9th, which is March 27th. But also, it's two periods of 273s. It's a doubling, and the center of it is a symbol that we're very familiar with, the 10th day of the 7th month. And then it has this symbol here for the priests or the Levites, depending which way you look at it. And we could apply this to the priests from July 10th to July 18th, that this is the cleansing of the sanctuary. And then on July 18th, it would be the priest's turn to cleanse the courtyard. Does that make sense to people, what I'm talking about, as far as how it relates to us at the present time? Any comments on that? Stephen, do you have any thoughts on that?
No.
No? No thoughts? Because when I look at this time that we're in, this 21 days, as we talked about before, this is Daniel praying, for 3 full weeks, looking for light. And we know that we have this period of time here that's going to end, which connects back to March 27th, 2020, and of that 100 days. As Stephen says, it's 144,000 minutes, which is why I think it's really significant, because we have this 144,000 days in here relating to this period of time here. And then we have these 2 other dates before July 18th, July 4th, right, and July 10th. And my view is we got July 4th coming up this Sabbath. July 10th is going to be a Friday. And then, of course, this is going to be a Sabbath again. And we don't know what's going to happen on either of these dates. We have Independence Day, of course, probably I would think there's some external events connected with riots and so forth. I would think that this July 4th would not be a very cohesive, patriotic July 4th, but that's just my guess. And then we get to July 10th, and then we have these 8 days. So in this period of time, we have these 21 days, which I think is a special time. But we also have these 8 days. And this period of time here is 13 days. Right, you can see that. Now, we also have 13 days over here. Now, what does this 8 and 13 remind you of?
Daniel 8:13.
Right, so this is Palmoni. And this is what Daniel is going to deal with when he does his presentation on Sunday morning, is he's going to deal with this in a bit more detail than what I'm doing here. But we can see that this is Daniel 8:13. We know it's part of Fibonacci sequence. Well, and just to remind people, in music, if you have a diatonic scale like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that's going to have 8 tones in it. The octave is just a repeat of the first. And if you have a chromatic scale, it's going to have 12 tones, and then the 13th is the repeat of the first note. And so even in music, the 2 basic scales we have, diatonic and chromatic, are represented as 8 and 13 as well. So there's lots of things about 8:13, probably more than I even know about regarding this ratio. So I don't know the significance here, specifically why the 8 and the 13 are here, why God has done it this way. But we're going to see that there are more 8s and 13s that are going to be showing up. And so this relationship here, to me, this is the first one that we should notice in this line that we have. And this ratio is going to show up again and again in different ways. So, I mean, that's all I can really tell you without doing a whole other study on something else. So to sum this up, Stephen, you have a comment?
Just an observation.
Okay.
The end of 32 years and 7 months is 11,900 days and 20 hours.
Yeah.
And you compare that to the 12,000 days.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's really what
So-
we're doing there. Yeah.
So you've 100 days difference
Okay.
there. So you've got 144,000 minutes.
Okay.
That difference, okay?
Okay.
Now, if you consider the 20 hours, I'm just wondering, I had a question, would it be possibly 20 hours and 10 minutes? Or no, just slightly less, 10 minutes less than 20 hours. Is that an estimate, or is that 20 hours spot on?
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. I'm going to look at that. I'm going to try to figure that out.
Because 20 hours is 12,000 minutes.
Yeah.
And so if you take 12,000 away from the 144,000 minutes, you have again there 148,200 minutes.
Yeah. Yes. So as you see, this structure is all interlocked with each other. These minutes, these days, these periods of time, in ways that I haven't really thought about. But just applying the fact that 100 days is 144,000 minutes, we can also see that this is connected with our line going to July 4th. Of course, we've got the center of ours is July 10th. And I haven't dealt with minutes a lot. I do have another presentation that I'm going to deal with on how the Jews count time, dealing with how they divide the hour and the significance of that. And a lot of this, again, it seems like really nitpicky detail. And we may not understand it all. That is, we probably couldn't reproduce all of this. But that's not the point. As long as we get the idea of what's being done, how we're taking time, and we're dividing this up into different fractions. And the reason we can do this comes from Josiah Litch's prophecy of Revelation 9, an hour, a day, a month, and a year. That is, God has given us all these divisions of time in this time prophecy. So we can look at things, and we've done this where we've looked at spans of time and divided them up into weeks. We've divided them up into hours. We've divided them up into minutes. We've even looked at seconds. And so God has given us this symbol as a pattern so that we can look at this in making this prediction. And I think some of our understanding is going to come from looking at things in a sort of a smaller way, like looking at the little details, the minutes and the seconds and the hours and all those things. And another light is going to come from looking at the bigger picture. And we'll see that this larger picture and these smaller pictures all fit together. So hopefully that's been helpful. I know it's not the most fun thing to do at this time of the morning for people who are here in North America, to have to do all this math. Now, I have sent some of this to you at other times, but you can find this in the Mayan calendar paper, the Mayan calendar in July 18th, if you want to look for it. It's at the end of the paper where I deal with these calculations there. And Stephen and I, I guess, are going to look at this a little bit more deeply into how these minutes apply. 144,000 minutes. And it just becomes never ending. The knowledge that God has, the information that's there. And we really need to spend time individually studying these things, looking for light, because God is going to give us light regarding this prediction in the next couple of weeks. So any final comments on this before we close with prayer?
Just to let you know, you should have received that email.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'll forward it to everyone, on my email list. And the important point from this one, from this study, is this 8:13. That's actually where I'm leading to, because Daniel's going to deal with that, Daniel Vanderhorst, and that's why I looked at this July 10th date, because he's going to address it. But if people don't understand this date, how we got it, then they're going to miss out some of the detail that he's going to bring out and why he's doing what he's doing. Okay.
I think it's very interesting, and I appreciate your revealing to us how you got to it.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, it was a good review for me too, because I kind of forgot a lot of the details. But yeah. Well, there's more interesting detail too as I look at my chart. But anyway, let's close with prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we are thankful for the time that we had to study together. We know, Lord, that there's many things that we do not understand, but we do understand that you love us and care for us, and that you have put these things in your word and in history, in calendars, in the sky. You've built because you spoke everything into existence, you've put some of yourself into the things that you have created. We can see your character and your love in how you created humanity. And we see also, Lord, the perversion that has come to nature through sin. And we know, Lord, that you care about us and that you've allowed nature to be a testimony against humanity. And so we are thankful for the prophecies in your word that point us on a correct path, that detract from all the craziness that's out there. And we just ask, Lord, that we can enter into your kingdom through thy Son, Jesus Christ. Be with us all as we go about our day, and bring us together again tomorrow morning to once again study and to continue to learn. Be with each person here and who's watching these videos, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, thanks, everyone. Appreciate it a lot. And I'll see you all hopefully tomorrow morning. And
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Morning your time.
yeah, okay. Okay, God bless everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Theodore. I'm working tomorrow, so I'll just catch up on the YouTube bit.
Okay. Okay. Take care, everybody. Dwight, Chris, Stephen, Tom.